So thank you, Venerable. So maybe before we get started, I just wanted to say a couple of things about the class and logistics. And then, if you don't mind, Venerable, and then we can get started. So first of all, thank you all for joining. It's so wonderful to see a lot of old friends, Don and, so many others, and Venerable Tendran. And I wanted to thank OCBC for hosting this, because, we, a few of us who, my name is Shankar Mitra, by the way, and I'm at, well, officially now I'm at Thupten Norbu Ling in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we had Venerable teaching basic program for quite a while. And so a few of us, his students, wanted him to give a teaching on this topic, illuminating the intent and the Madhyamaka Avatara. And he kindly accepted, and Shantideva Center kindly decided to host it. So and OCBC in California also to co-host it. So I thank both of them for doing that. Couple of things. One is Venerable would like you all to keep your cameras on if at all possible. If you need to keep it off because of bandwidth reasons, etc., you can turn it off once in a while. But if you could, so that he can gauge, gauge whether people are understanding back, and to get feeling from people's faces as to whether things are making sense or not. And he also likes to have an interactive kind of session.
Also, if you need to, obviously, if you need to make a cup of tea, you can turn off your video, or you can, if you have to go to the bathroom. But in general, if you have the bandwidth, it's nice and helpful for me.
Right. So at the end of this class, those of you who want to stick around, we will have, it's not required, of course, but if you're interested, we will have a discussion session after every class. And we can discuss during, today during that session as to how we would do it and so forth and so on. So that's just a general announcement. I think that's the OCBC folks, Snehi and Sheila, have an email list of all of you. So if there's things that need to be sent to you, or if there are announcements, like if something happens, some announcements needed, then it will go out to all of you through email. Right, Snehi? Okay, thank you. Just a note, please keep the Zoom link and or the email you got from Shantideva handy. The email that you got after you registered, that email or the Zoom link that came in that email handy, because there will not be reminders about this class. So you will just have to, it's just on each of us to, have it handy so that we can just sign in and, be on time and so forth and so on. So that's all I had to say regarding the logistics of the class. Oh, and one last thing, which is that, as you know, this is going to be if you stick around for the entire course, it's a relatively long course. It will take probably a year, maybe a little bit more. And it will be broken up into 6, 8, 10-week sessions, something like that, depending on where a good stopping point is that Venerable feels. And then in between, we will have a break of about 4 weeks, maybe something like that. Venerable, is that what you were thinking?
I'm not sure. Snehi, what were you thinking? Was it 2 weeks, or was it going to be?
No.
Well,
I think it's going to be a longish break, because we'll finish at the end of July, and then August we don't have any classes, and then we'll start after Labor Day.
Okay. So yeah, so about a month or so.
That was the exception, because August is vacation month for us, and also especially for Italians. Everything closes down probably.
Right.
But generally between the eight week modules will say there would be a 2-week break generally.
Yes, correct. That's correct. Thank you.
That's what I wanted to say. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for all the logistics. I'll just say a couple of words for those of you. I don't know if some of you know Venerable very, very well. I just wanted to, rather than just read out, you can read his bio. So, and I've known Venerable for a long time, maybe 20 odd years now. And I'm very honored to have him as a good friend. And he has studied with many of the greatest lamas of our generation, including Geshe Sopa in Wisconsin, with whom he had, studied this particular to the Madhyamaka Avatara text for 6 or so years, I think, and had also helped translate that text into English and the commentary into English. So he is eminently qualified, and we are so honored to have him teach this course. I mean, it's a really wonderful thing, Venerable. And so thank you very much. We're very, very grateful.
Thank you, Shankar.
And so then, shall I get started with the prayers then, Venerable?
Yes, we're going to say, rather than as I've alternated between courses, whether we do meditation, and whether we say prayers, we've opted now to begin this module with some prayers, and hopefully thinking about the meaning of the prayers, setting a proper motivation, especially this first session, for the motivation for the whole study of the Madhyamaka subject. So yeah, there you go.
Okay. Sangye. Oh, do you want in English or?
You chant. Yeah.
Okay. Sangye chodang soki chodam la changchu bardagni kapsuti dagi junyen gi pesuti soksonam ki drola penchu sangye drupasho sangye.
You've got an extra syllable in there.
Yeah, I know. I just realized that, Venerable. It's supposed to be sonam gi.
We should have changed sonam to sognam so that S-O.
Right. So that shouldn't be,
Okay.
that shouldn't be there. I need to take it out.
Okay.
And that should be gi, G-Y-I.
Not Jim. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Sangye chodang soki chodam la jangchu bardagni kapsuti dagi junyen gi sogam gi jola penche sage drupasho.
And the third time we'll say in English, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. Through the collections I create, listening to the Dharma, may I become Buddha in order to benefit all. Actually, I had changed sentient beings to migrators, but there's still sentient beings there. When it says Drola Penchir Sangye Drupashok, the third line.
Oh, hang on. Oh, shoot. George, where's George? Unmute. Oh. Venerable, I'm sorry, I muted you by mistake.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Can you hear me? So that line, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit sentient beings, is actually, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all, in order to benefit migrators. It doesn't even say the word all. May I become a Buddha in order to benefit migrating beings. So the sense of migrating means through cyclic existence, all sentient beings are going from one state to another, from the hell realm to the human realm to the preta realm to the God realm. Most of our time we're spending in the lower realms. So that gives a very special meaning. And interestingly, I think in many languages, the word for going, the verbs for going are irregular. Like we say, I go for refuge to the Buddha. Buddhanam, Buddhanam Saragam Gachami. Maybe you've heard the chant. So in Sanskrit, but in the past, it's gate. So like we say gate, parasam gate, bodhi soha. So in Tibetan, also the words for the verb to go is irregular like that. So just keep that in mind. Drula Penchir Sangye Drupashok, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit migrating beings. Then
Saji Poki Jukshin Me Tuk Tram Rira Blingzi Ni Degen Padi Sangye Jindu Mikte Ulwa Yidroku Namada Jingla Chopasho. O holy and perfect pure Lama, from clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be trained. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami.
Okay, so this first session, I suggested maybe at the beginning of each of the modules, we'll recite the foundation of good qualities. This is a prayer, a glance meditation on the Lanrim that was composed by Lama Tsongkhapa himself. Anyone been to Tibet? Know where Lama Tsongkhapa composed this? No? He composed it at in Reading, where the sort of quite north of Lhasa, where Lama Atisha and Dromdempa founded that center of pure practitioners. And I had a chance to visit it many years ago. And I think he composed this text in a cave above the monastery, which is still, there's still things there, called Sengeka, so the lion's mouth, something like that. And so as one of the texts we'll be studying is Lama Tsongkhapa's composition, Illuminating the Intent. I thought to recite this glance meditation on the Lanrim composed by him. So we will read it in English. Shankar, if you'd like to begin.
Okay. Would you like me to pause or after each verse, or for you?
Okay, let me sort of give I'll give an idea for the first time here. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect Guru. Correctly following the Guru is the root of the path. By my clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon the Guru with great respect. So when you recite these verses, you imagine, you try to bring to mind that subject matter from the stages of the path, the Lanrim, Guru devotion, and that this reliance upon the Guru is the essential point of that, because it gives you the basis for respect and for following the teachings and so forth. When I have discovered that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is extremely difficult to find again, and is greatly meaningful, please bless me to unceasingly generate the mind taking its essence day and night. When it says, please bless me, that means opening up your mind to the inspiration from the omniscient mind to make these realizations. Once you've understood the rarity and the importance of a perfect human rebirth, not to waste it and to strive day and night to take its essence. This body and life are changing like a water bubble. Remembering how quickly they perish and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results in black and white karma follow. So continue down, because this continues with the next verse, these two together. When I have found definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be conscientious in abandoning even the slightest collection of shortcomings and accomplishing all virtuous deeds. The Lama Khapa connected together the topics of impermanence and the understanding of karma in these two verses, because they're intimately related. When I have recognized the shortcomings of samsaric perfections, that there is no satisfaction in enjoying them, they are the door to all suffering, and they cannot be trusted. Please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. This is one of the verses that I recite every day. Even if I don't recite the whole foundation of good qualities, it's sort of like the essence of renunciation. Though my being led by this pure thought, all right. Though my being led by this pure thought with great remembrance, alertness, and conscientiousness, please bless me to make keeping the individual liberation vows the root of the teaching, my essential practice. So the essential practice here of avoiding negativities, if you have the vows of individual liberation. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother transmigratory beings. By my seeing this, please bless me to train in supreme bodhicitta, which bears the responsibility of freeing migrators. So having developed renunciation, then train in the actual bodhicitta. Just as I have fallen into the sea of... Oh, we just recited that one, right? Even if I develop only bodhicitta, mere bodhicitta, without familiarizing myself with the three types of morality, I cannot achieve enlightenment. By seeing this well, please bless me to keep the vow of the sons of the victorious ones with fervent effort. This is saying if you just have wishing bodhicitta without engaging, familiarizing with the three types of Mahayana morality, that won't lead you to enlightenment. So you have to keep the bodhisattva vows and strive to be generous and ethical and concentrated and so forth. By my having pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to quickly generate within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. When I have become a suitable vessel by training in the common path, please bless me to immediately enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme of all vehicles, the Vajrayana. So knowing that the Vajrayana is even in this world system that we live in, the Saha world system, the fortunate world system, the 1,000 Buddhas who will come during this existence of this universe, only a couple of them, the first, Shakyamuni, the fourth, and the last will definitely teach Tantra, and maybe Lama Tsongkhapa, who will be one of the others emanating as a Buddha, will teach. So even rarer than a perfect human rebirth, even rarer than the teaching of the Holy Dharma is the teaching of Vajrayana. So to, make a very strong connection with that, wishing to enter that as soon as it appears in the world. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments, the two cities, is keeping my vows and samayas purely. When I have gained effortless conviction in this, please bless me to protect them even at the cost of my life. Then, when I have realized exactly the vital points of the two stages, it means the generation stage and the completion stage, the essence of the tantric sets, and I am enjoying the yoga of 4 sessions with effort without being distracted by non-meditation objects, please bless me to accomplish these according to the teachings of the holy beings. Thus may the virtuous friends who reveal the noble path and the spiritual practitioners who correctly accomplish it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely the collections of outer and inner obstacles. So praying not only for the long life of virtuous friends, but our co-practitioners who will correctly accomplish it. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma, and by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay. Thank you. So, good. Well, I guess I have to be careful here because some of you, it's good evening to some of you, good morning to some of you, good afternoon to some of you. We have a wide stretch of people here. Those of you who have just joined, if you have the bandwidth, if you can turn your cameras on, Shanka had mentioned before, it can help me to following. If you don't have the bandwidth, that's okay. Or if you have to go off, make a cup of tea or go to the bathroom, you can turn off, obviously. But so good to see all of you. My name is Gelong Tupten Sultrim, and that's a bit of a tongue twister. So I tell people, they say, what should we call this? It's just call me Monk George. So Gelong means bhikshu. That's the Sanskrit name of the fully ordained Buddhist monks. And Tupten Sultrim, Tupten means Tup means Muni, like we talk about Shakyamuni. Ten means doctrine. So Tupten actually means the doctrine of the Muni, like Buddha Dharma. This is another synonym of Buddha Dharma. Sultrim is the Tibetan translation of the Sanskrit word Shila. When we talk about the 6 perfections, the perfection of morality or ethics. So I have been a monk since 1975, and maybe I hope the course ends before my 50th anniversary of becoming a monk, but it could come rather close to that. I've had a chance of listening to the teachings of Madhyamaka, about Madhyamaka, from many great teachers. The reason I mention that is that that's the subject matter that we're going to be talking about during this course for the most part. The composition by the great Indian saint Pandit Chandrakirti, called the Madhyamaka Avatara, and his own commentary to his verses, called the Madhyamaka Avatara Bhasham. Bhasham means auto commentary. That means auto means composed by the person who composed the verses. So sometimes there are root verses and someone else writes a commentary to them. And also Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to that. That is to say, Lama Tsongkhapa's aim was, his what he's talking about, is commenting on, is the Madhyamaka Avatara verses, which I believe you have access to, translation of the root verses by Thupten Jinpa, right, Shankar? That's right? Right? And I will make available to you my translation of the Madhyamaka Avatara Bhasham with just the proviso that you not share it with anyone else. It's been my experience over the years with several translations that even well-meaning, you think to send it to a friend, and then they send it to someone else who then proliferates it. Hopefully I'll have a chance to edit that as time goes on and publish that. And of course, the commentary by Lama Tsongkhapa, sort of the main textbook that we'll be using. Can you see well? Close enough? The Illuminating the Intent by Lama Tsongkhapa. The translation by Thupten Jinpa is quite good. We'll be using that. And I had a chance over the years to study in depth. My first experience was studying with Geshe Pelden Drakpa. Does anyone know Geshe Pelden Drakpa? Tendrin, did you show some familiarity? Do you know Geshe Pelden Drakpa? Geshe Pelden Drakpa was a Geshe from Drebung, who happened to be the resident teacher at Tibet House when I was the Inji teacher at Tushita, Delhi, many years ago. And so I asked Geshe if he would teach me. He didn't speak English very much. He spoke enough English for me to take him to the market to change money or to go for food or something like that. But he taught me in Tibetan, which I couldn't understand everything he said, obviously, the entire Bhasham, the auto commentary by Chandrakirti to his root verses. And so that was my first sort of like imprint. That was kind of like painting the wall with very thin coating that you could, big gaps, because I couldn't understand everything he was saying, but it received the oral transmission of the Bhasham from Geshe. So when you say the Bhasham, usually what that means is that it includes the root verses that he had written and were quite known before that. Probably some of you have seen the root verses over the years and have wondered about them. Chandrakirti's intention in each of those verses is explained in his auto commentary. Then some years later, in Instituto Lama Tsongkhapa, when Lama Yeshe asked me to compose the 7-year program, which is eventually now is called the master's program, that was one of the subjects that was going to be part of that curriculum, the Madhyamaka Avatara. So Geshe Jampa Gyatso decided to teach that, and as we had no text of the whole Bhasham, the auto commentary, I, along with Thupten Jampa, who was a monk at the time, Tibetan monk who'd studied at the Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies in Sarnath, so he knew Sanskrit also. So we set about every day translating the section of the text Geshe-la was going to teach that day. We tried to keep a couple of days ahead. And I remember having different kinds of typewriters, and then Selectric, where you could see there was sort of mini computer, a couple of lines in there. Maybe you remember the evolution of those things. And we translated the first 5 chapters. At a certain point, Thupten Jampa went off to translate for Genlan Rinpa in Washington State, the great retreat that went on there on tranquil abiding that Alan Wallace organized. And I completed the text by myself. And so Geshe-la taught that text, and he also interspersed it with commentary from the Gompa Rapso, from Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to that. And then subsequent to that, I had a chance to go to Sera J Monastery in India, where His Holiness was giving a public discourse on the both the Madhyamaka Vatara and Gompa Rapso. So those names you should be familiar with over time. Madhyamaka Vatara is the text composed by Chandrakirti. Gompa Rapso is Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to that. And I was able to, in a sort of Indian fashion, find some printers. I had my computer with me. I printed out all of the pages of my translation, edited it, sort of slight editing, and had it printed up by a local printer and offered each of the participants, the Western participants, that commentary, which was quite exciting, and had a chance to offer to His Holiness that translation. So His Holiness gave an explanation of both the Chandrakirti's text, the Madhyamaka Vatara, and Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to that. Then some years later, after I had taught basic program modules at Land of Medicine Buddha, Geshe Luntub Sopa in Deer Park, who I'd had connection with over the years, he asked if I would come to Deer Park to help edit his summer courses on the Gompa Rapso. Geshe-la taught for, I think, 5 summers or 6 summers. It would be 4 weeks, essentially, twice a day, Monday through Friday. So there were hundreds and hundreds of lectures. Geshe Zopa taught in great detail Gompa Rapso. So I've had the fortune to have studied the Madhyamaka Vatara individually and the Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to that, Gompa Rapso, with Geshe Zopa, who was, if you don't know, Geshe Zopa, who passed away a few years ago, was one of the officials who determined in the debating courtyard that the 14th Dalai Lama, the present Dalai Lama, was qualified to receive his Geshe degree. You know, when they receive that degree, they have to pass. Nowadays, they have to pass both a written and an oral examination. The oral examination was in the form of debate in the courtyard, and there are even some videos that still exist of Geshe Zopa debating with the Dalai Lama, and so he became. They were lifelong friends as a result of that. So Geshe Zopa was considered to be one of the great experts on Lama Tsongkhapa's composition of the Madhyamaka Vatara. I had a chance of studying that with him, as well as his entire discourse on Lama Tsongkhapa's, another of Lama Tsongkhapa's great commentaries, the Drangne Lekshe Ningbo, the good explanation of the interpretative and definitive meaning of the sutras. That's another of Lama Tsongkhapa's texts. And before Geshe-la became, I think he was already in his late 80s at the time, before he became unable to teach any longer, he taught us many chapters from the text Ocean of Reasoning, Ritbe Gyatso, which is one of the other great texts by Lama Tsongkhapa. So received many teachings, heard many teachings. That's one of the ways that the Dalai Lama explains himself. You know, when he writes his name, Tenzin Gyatso, who has heard many teachings. So not saying that I understood anything, but at least I heard them and received the oral transmission of those texts, which is one of the ways of upholding the Dharma. You know, when we talk about upholding the holy Dharma, the doctrine, we talk about upholding the doctrine of scriptures and the doctrine of realization. So the doctrine of scriptures means having heard the teachings, understood the words correctly, you can transmit them, explain them to others. Like when Lama Zopa Rinpoche offers oral transmissions of texts, you know, you might think, wow, what's the point of this? There's said to be great blessing in receiving teachings from someone who has heard the teachings, tracing back to the origin of those teachings, you know, whether it be to the Buddha, to Nagarjuna, to Chandrakirti, and so forth, Lama Tsongkhapa. So that's just to give you a little bit of, I don't know if you could say confidence, maybe not confidence, anyway, some background in terms of having heard these teachings, thought about them, and so maybe there's something that will be taught in this course. So generally in a long course like this, the teacher will spend several lectures in talking about, reminding people about the stages of the path. But we'll be talking about that in detail almost every lecture, so bringing up different aspects of the path. You know, as a preliminary, I didn't think it was necessary right now. Those of you who are, and I think most of you are older students, and maybe none of you fall into this category, but if there are some that would like to have more background, you can check on the Shantideva Center site on YouTube. There's several courses that I gave on the 3 principles of the path, on the 37 practices of the Buddha's sons, or the offsprings of the conquerors, that are sort of long rim type texts, and you can catch up there. So before we go any further, I'm just going to take a short break, just for 2 minutes, and I'll be right back.
Does anyone know if these teachings are going to be posted on the YouTube like his other ones?
Yes, and maybe Snehi, if you would mention, is there going to be a link on the Shantideva website, or?
Yes, I'll just post the link in the chat, but it's just a Shantideva. If you go to the Shantideva website and you click in Venerable George's course, then the recording link is there. But I'll post it now again.
Yeah, just a little little concerned that I'm not going to be able to make it every Saturday. That's why.
Yeah, just scroll down to recordings because I think it's kind of more than halfway through the page.
I am back. Is that what Jack Nicholson said in the hotel? Something like that, right? So, yeah, I may have to excuse myself a couple of other times. I'm recovering from prostate cancer. I had 45 days of radiation and am still experiencing a little bit of incontinence. So I might have to, when it gets to the point where I need to, I have a little container up here where I can empty my bladder rather than soiling my clothes. So that's one of the sufferings of cyclic existence. So I think for auspiciousness, we'll begin with some of these introductory verses from Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary. So I have on one screen, on one of my iPads here, I have Thupten Jinpa's translation, which you can find, you can get it on your tablet or your phone. And I also have a translation of the first 5 chapters of this text by Jeffrey Hopkins, which is in a text called Compassion in Tibetan Buddhism. And I will contrast the two. If you have a chance to have both of them, it would be very, very useful. Compassion in Tibetan Buddhism, the first half of the book is a set of lectures taught by a great Tibetan Lama that Jeffrey Hopkins studied with, Geshe Legden, about compassion and other subjects. And the second half of the book is Jeffrey Hopkins' translation of the first 5 chapters of Illuminating the Intent. So I will begin with Illuminating the Intent. Let me see the page number here in the actual book. I guess. If I try to tell you that the page in my on my iPad here, it would be different because it depends on what size your font is. It doesn't correspond to the written page. But if you have this book, we're beginning on page 32, right? 31, where it says preliminaries. Okay. So Thupten Jinpa puts a heading there, salutation. That is not necessarily part of Lama Tsongkhapa's words. With deep respect, I pay homage at the feet of and go for refuge to my reverend guru, Manjushri, and to the noble Nagarjuna and his sons. So Thupten Jinpa is a very good translator, and I've known him for many years, but in this, where he says Manjushri, it's actually, the Tibetan is Jampeyang, which is Manju Gosha. Do you know the difference between Jampelyang and Jampeyang? Manjushri and Manju Gosha. Manju Gosha is sort of is in the same name. They're referring to the same aspect of the Buddha's omniscient mind that realizes emptiness directly. Manju Gosha is emphasizing his elucidation of the teachings verbally. Gosha or yang means sort of melodious. So the melodious gentle one, or the one who utters the teachings in a melodious fashion. Manjushri is Jampelyang. Pel means glorious. Like maybe in Sanskrit, the word when we say Shri Haruka or glorious Lama and so forth, it's the word Shri, S-H-R-I. So with deep respect, I pay homage at the feet of and go for refuge to my Reverend Guru, Manju Gosha, should be, and to the noble Nagarjuna and his sons. So Lama Tsongkhapa is commenting on a text by Nagarjuna, one particular text of the many that he wrote that is called Fundamental Wisdom or Root of Wisdom. You can translate it either way. And so Nagarjuna was the individual who reinvigorated the Buddha's teachings about emptiness, maybe 400, 500 years after the Buddha passed away, where the Mahayana teachings were not well known in the world. He opened that path of understanding. And so he's considered to be, one of the prophesized beings, as we'll find in the text, many prophecies that Buddha Shakyamuni gave about Nagarjuna. His sons, did he have sons? I thought he was a monk. Anyone know? What does that mean? His sons. It means his spiritual sons, obviously. And so here one can take that to mean Arya Deva, Chandrakirti, Buddhapalita, and so forth, several of the great Indian saints who followed very closely on his teachings. So that's the very first verse. So I pay homage. You could say I bow down, and for homage, and bowing down to the feet is a sort of Indian tradition predating Buddhism. If you've ever been to India and if you see a disciple come up to a teacher, they put their head on the ground and they touch the feet and they touch their hand to their head as though, the teacher's feet are higher than your head. So it's a sign of supplication. I remember when at the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives many years ago, 30, 40 years ago, when I was studying with Geshe Darge there, Khyentse Trijang Rinpoche lived quite near. And when Rinpoche was coming out, he was very old at the time, had his attendant with him holding his hand as he walked. Some Indian person came up and it did exactly that. He put his head on the ground. He tried to move Rinpoche's foot on his head, but Rinpoche wouldn't move his foot. So he would touch the foot and touch it his head. So that's kind of a sense of reverence when you say, I pay homage or bow to the feet of, and I go for refuge to my Guru Manjushri. This is Lama Tsongkhapa talking, because he had an actual encounter, many encounters, direct encounter with Manjushri. It went in stages over the years. At first, he used some people who had the ability to see Manjushri, to hear him. Lama Tsongkhapa could ask questions. And then later, as his relationship with Manjushri apparently increased, he was actually able to see Manjushri and ask questions directly. So like in some of the prayers that we say in Lama Chopo, when we say, you are the guru, you are the yidam, you are the dharma protectors, the dakas and dakinis and protectors and so forth. One of the lines goes, be my constant companion. Sort of like, to be able to, even when your physical guru disappears, to be able to have a sense of relationship with them. So he considered Manjushri to be his guru, actually could ask him questions, and paying homage to the feet of the Arya Nagarjuna, the superior Nagarjuna. So next verse, you are the treasure of all excellent insights, profound and vast, the unacquainted friend of everyone in this world, the eyes for beings of the three realms to see the excellent path, Munindra, the sun among preachers, sustain us at all times. So this is paying homage to Shakyamuni Buddha. So another little difference here, the first line says, you are the treasure of all excellent insights. Actually, the Tibetan text says good explanations, as in Jeffrey Hopkins' translation of this verse. He says, may I always be protected by the king of subduers. That means Munindra, the son of all teachers, sunlight, not S-O-N, S-U-N, of all teachers, the treasure of all good explanations. So we say lekshe, like in the famous text that Lama Khapa wrote, lekshe ningpo, the essence of good explanation. So this, the fact that he wrote insights here is a little bit misleading. You are the treasure of all excellent explanations, good explanations, profound and vast, the unacquainted friend of everyone in the world. Who wants to make a stab at what that means? Unacquainted friend. Snehi, do you think, Evan? Stephen? Unacquainted friend, what does that mean to you?
It feels like whether I know the Buddha or not, he's my friend.
Say again?
It feels like, for the Buddha, he doesn't need to know who I am. He's my friend. If I reach out to him, he's my friend.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's something different. For me, it's the every sentient being, no matter what, it is my friend, even if I may not know it, even if it seems like an enemy or something. That's how I interpret.
Who's that? Is it Donnie? Donnie speaking?
Yes, me.
Okay, yeah, good. Okay. I can see the green line around there. Yeah, I reached out to some of my colleague, my spiritual friends, and there's really no commentary by other lamas on these initial verses. So it's one's left a little bit to your own devices. The unacquainted friend of everyone in the world. Jeffrey Hopkins translated it differently. He said, unusual friend of all the world. Unusual friend. So what comes to mind is a little bit what a couple of you have said, that the Buddha, certainly with omniscient mind, knows each of us intimately, more than we know ourselves. So it's not so much that the Buddha is unacquainted with us, is helpful, but we're unacquainted with him. Or, as Jeffrey says, unusual friend. Unusual, how does that mean? The same word that's translated in Tibetan is miji, which means, literally it means unacquainted, but in the sense that it's a friend that we don't know, but is unusual in that even though we don't know them, they work for our benefit. You are the treasure of all excellent, good explanation, all explanations, profound and vast, the unacquainted friend of everyone in the world, the eyes for beings of the three realms to see the excellent path. So what does that mean? We can't see the excellent path, the path that leads to enlightenment right now. We need to have someone who sees that directly with their own realization, the omniscient mind. Munindra, and then in parentheses it says the Buddha. The text just says Munindra, the son of among preachers, sustain us at all times. So we'll come across this epithet of the Buddha again several times in the text. Remember, I mentioned my name was Thupten Sultrim, right? Thupten, I said, Tup meant Muni, like Shakyamuni, and Ten meant doctrine. So Munindra is a combination of Muni and the word Indra. You know, the Indra is the name of one of the gods, the Hindu gods, but it also means powerful or sovereign. So the Buddha is called the Munindra, the sovereign, or the, how did Jeffrey Hopkins translate it here? King of subduers. Jeffrey Hopkins translates Munindra as king of subduers. Muni can mean sage. It can mean someone who subdues the negative qualities. So it's just a name that is given to the Buddha. The other solitary realizers and hearers, the Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, also called Munis, but they're not called Munindras. So the Munindra means kind of the Lord of sages. And so that is a name that's reserved for the Buddha. So first, salutation to Shakyamuni Buddha. Then to Manjushri himself. You are unrivaled among the myriad conquerors, proclaiming everywhere the lion's roar, the perfect and excellent tale of the profound truth. Guru Manjushri, please bless me throughout all time. Again, the actual text says Manju Gosha. Jeffrey Hopkins says, may I always receive the blessed empowerment from Guru Manju Gosha, source of profundity in the retinue of countless conquerors, unequaled in proclaiming the lion's roar of right discourse supreme. So first paying salutation to Guru Shakyamuni, then to Manju Gosha, another name for Manjushri, who is the teacher of who's the teacher of Lama Tsongkhapa, is the actual vision. So going back sort of like to the origin, to Guru Shakyamuni, then from Guru Shakyamuni, the way that his teachings were presented, the profound path was presented was through Manjushri. Now, Manjushri gave special instruction to Nagarjuna. So the third verse is to Nagarjuna. You were prophesied to expound as they are the distilled essence of the mind of the Sugatas of the three times. You know what Sugatas means, right? Sugatas means those who have well gone. It's another epithet of the Buddhas. You were prophesied to expound as they are the distilled essence of the mind of the Sugatas of the three times, the middle way free of extremes, and the path of dependent origination. Nagarjuna, I bow to you from my heart. Seize me with your hook of compassion, or with mercy, however you like to translate it. So Nagarjuna was actually prophesied by Guru Shakyamuni and even other Buddhas before that as coming in the future to clarify the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha about emptiness. So that when it says you were prophesied, here Jeffrey says, homage from my heart to the prophesied Nagarjuna, who explained as it is the middle way of dependent arising, free from extremes, the mind essence of the Sugatas in the past, present, and future, hold me then with the hook of mercy. So we got Shakyamuni, Manjushri, Nagarjuna. Now, Arya Deva, one of the principal sons, spiritual sons of Nagarjuna. Through Nagarjuna's instructions, you have reached great heights. Arya Deva becoming an actual superior being, an Arya being who'd realized emptiness directly through instructions from his guru Nagarjuna. Through Nagarjuna's instruction, you've reached great heights. You reveal to other beings what you yourselves have seen, which you have yourself seen. You have gained mastery over the tail, revealing the excellent path. Jeffrey says, attaining dominion of discourse, teaching the good path. You have gained mastery over the tail, discourse, maybe, revealing the excellent path. Glorious Arya Deva, I bow at your feet. So Arya Deva, maybe some of you know in New York City, or in New York nowadays, what's his name? Robert Thurman, the chair, he had been the chair, the Lama Tsong chair at Columbia University for some time. Robert Thurman has one eye, right? You know, he lost an eye. You know that. And his Dalai Lama sometimes jokes that maybe Robert Thurman is the reincarnation of Arya Deva, because Arya Deva also had one eye like that. So Shakyamuni, Manjushri, Nagarjuna, then his principal son, Arya Deva, who studied with him, then to Buddhapalita. Buddhapalita, maybe some of you don't know, you've not heard, Buddhapalita wrote a text that the title of which was just Buddhapalita. It was a word commentary to fundamental wisdom. So he was subsequent to Nagarjuna, but before Chandrakirti. Buddhapalita wrote a text called Buddhapalita. And in that, he pointed out the correct understanding of Nagarjuna's teachings, what we call the prasangika, right? So you have fulfilled the sacred words of Reverend Manjushri. You have illuminated the ultimate intent of noble Nagarjuna. You have traveled to the state of a perfect knowledge holder. Buddhapalita, I bow my head at your feet. Again, the word in the text in Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary is Manjugosha rather than Manjushri, but I mentioned that before. So Buddhapalita explained Nagarjuna's intention, and we today consider him to be one of the first Madhyamakas, prasangikas. He explained how one could understand emptiness through the mere statement of a consequence. Prasanga means consequence. So if you propose an absurd consequence to someone who's ready, you can induce in their mind stream a correct understanding of emptiness. After Buddhapalita, there was another great Lama who is not right here paid salutation to, Bhavaviveka. Bhavaviveka took issue with Buddhapalita's explanation and said, "Oh no, you're wrong. So Buddhapalita was kind of like one of the first explicit prasangikas. Of course, Nagarjuna and Arya Deva, we could say, had the prasangika view, but they didn't elucidate it in that particular fashion the way that Buddhapalita did. Bhavaviveka was the sort of like the originator of the Svatantrika Madhyamaka. Those of you who've studied tenets a little bit, when you talk about the Madhyamaka school, the middle way school, we talk about Svatantrika Madhyamaka and Prasangika Madhyamaka. So Bhava Viveka, from the point of view of the sort of the highest Prasangika view, the Svatantrika view is a little bit lower than that. So then it's said that Buddhapalita did not have a chance to defend himself. Bhava Viveka was more or less a contemporary of Buddhapalita. He didn't have a chance to defend himself because Bhava Viveka was a monk, and I think Buddhapalita was a Brahmin, or you know, of high caste. He was a layman, and he couldn't, according to Indian tradition, defend himself against the monk, right? So don't feel that way with me. I'm a monk, but if you find some error in what I'm saying, just, you know, slam it out there. But Buddhapalita didn't have that opportunity. So it's said that later he took reincarnation as Chandrakirti. There's a tradition in Tibetan Buddhism that Chandrakirti was the reincarnation of Buddhapalita, who then clarified Buddhapalita's intention and sort of refuted Bhava Viveka. So that's why Bhava Viveka is not mentioned here in these salutations. So the next verse is to two of the subsequent famous Prasangika adherents, Chandrakirti and Shantideva. Maybe you know Shantideva, who wrote the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, and Chandrakirti, who's written our root text here, the Madhyamaka Avatara. You have revealed in its perfect fullness the path of the great sage. It's referring to the Buddha, Shakyamuni, subtle and difficult to fathom, the way of Nagarjunas with its singular traits. Chandrakirti and Shantideva, I bow at your feet. So what do you think, that third line, the way of Nagarjunas? In Tibetan, you could just say Nagarjuna's system or the Nagarjuna's way, but it seems a little bit interesting to me there. The way of Nagarjunas, I guess you can say that grammatically, right? It means Nagarjuna's way with its singular traits. So what that means, with its unique system. Here, Jeffrey Hopkins translated, homage to the Honorable Chandrakirti and Shantideva, who completely and perfectly revealed the path of the great sage, Buddha, subtle and hard to realize, the extraordinary essentials of Nagarjuna's system. So Nagarjuna's system is, if understood correctly, Prasangika system, is unique from all of the other explanations in the various Buddhist tenets. It has some unique points of view. And finally, having properly seen with the eyes of untainted intelligence, the well-established system of Nagarjuna and Aryadeva in its entirety, with all its unique and essential points, as elucidated by the three great charioteers, and so that I may remove the stains of erroneous explanations of many who strove to expound this tradition here in this region, and also because I have been urged by others, I will correctly and extensively present entering the middle way. So what is this? This is what in Tibetan tradition is called the the Indian tradition is called the promise to compose. So this is Lama Tsongkhapa talking about himself. So he says he has properly seen with the eyes of untainted intelligence, stainless intelligence, the well-established system of Nagarjuna and Aryadeva. So Nagarjuna and Aryadeva are considered to be, they're not called Prasangika. They're kind of like, because they didn't differentiate themselves as Prasangika. So they are kind of like the general correct Madhyamakas. So having understood and seen with the eyes of unstained intelligence the well-established system of Nagarjuna and Aryadeva in its entirety, with all its unique and essential points, as elucidated by the three great charioteers. So this is in reference to, if you see verse 49. On my iPad, it's very easy because if you press that 49 on the digital version, it goes right to the thing at the end of the text. Otherwise, you have to finger back to the pages. This is reference to Buddhapalita, who was a 5th century, Chandrakirti, 7th century, and Shantideva, 8th century. So Khapa sees these 3 Indian Buddhist masters as the key proponents of the Prasangika Madhyamaka reading of Nagarjuna's thought. So notice that doesn't include, that not including Nagarjuna or Aryadeva. There's sort of like the classic Madhyamakas, which other people had interpretations of. Buddhapalita had an interpretation of Nagarjuna. Even the Chittamatrans, the mind-only school, had their own interpretation of Nagarjuna. So the expression great charioteer, Shingta Champo. Shing means wood, right? Ta means horse. Shingta, wooden horse, is the Indian, is a Tibetan word for chariot, okay? Just like Namdu is a Tibetan word for airplane. So means space boat. It's for people that didn't, have to create new Tibetan words for things. Have to depend upon some kind of thing that's common to the people already understanding. The expression great charioteer, Shingta Champo, is an abbreviation of the full expression, great chariot way maker, or another way of translating it, great trailblazer, invoking the idea of someone who opens a roadway for chariots to pass, where before there was either no path at all or only a small trail. So the kind of idea here is like, I think in Italy, sometimes people don't know where the Roman roads were. They've been overgrown and so forth. Someone with technology or through just exploration is able to differentiate where the road was, and they clean it, they can see the stones and so forth. That would be kind of like someone who was a trailblazer, cleaning, clearing away, making clear what had once been set down by the Buddha and Nagarjuna, and making that clear to others. Make sense? Yeah. So this is a promise to compose the text. So he said that he is seen with the eyes of unstained intelligence, the system of Nagarjuna and Aryadeva, all of it, the entire system, with all its unique and essential points, as elucidated by the 3 great charioteers, meaning Buddhapalita, Chandrakirti, and Shantideva, and so that I may remove the stains of erroneous explanations of many who strove to expound this tradition here in this region. Here in this region means Tibet. So many Tibetans, well, even Indians, tried to explain Nagarjuna's systems, and from the point of view of Prasangika, didn't quite get it right. So you might think that this sounds a little bit like bragging or something like that, but that is very much the case throughout the history of these kind of Buddhist compositions, say the Prajnaparamita Sutra, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras of the Buddha, three in particular we call the three mothers, the 8,000 verse Prajnaparamita, the 25,000 verse Prajnaparamita Sutra, and the 100,000 verse Prajnaparamita Sutra. All are compositions about the same discourse that the Buddha gave in an abbreviated form, 8,000 verses, the intermediate form, 25,000 verses, in an elaborate form, 100,000 verses. Many people explained it according to their understanding, maybe with the blessings of deities, but according to their own understanding. Others that came after them would criticize them and say, you didn't get it right. This is what the Buddha actually meant. So when he says, so that I may remove the stains of erroneous explanations of many who strove to expound this tradition here in this region, here in Tibet, and also because I have been urged by others. So Lama Tsongkhapa was urged by especially Manjushri to compose this text, and by other of his disciples, other great lamas, who themselves asked him if he could put into writing his explanation of Chandrakirti's Madhyamaka. So Lama Tsongkhapa's text is a commentary to both the root verses, which could be just read by themselves, and to Chandrakirti's auto commentary, which includes the root verses and comments on each of those verses. So in certain places, you can see Lama Tsongkhapa commenting on the root verse, and then later commenting on the commentary. Sometimes he adds entire sections that are not found in Chandrakirti. So he says, I will correctly and extensively present entering the middle way. So that just means Madhyamaka. So interesting, the name entering the middle way. If you use a kind of analogy with the Shantideva's famous text, Bodhisattva Charya Avatara, right? So often we refer to that as entering into the Bodhisattva's activities. Bodhisattva Charya means activities, Avatara means entering, kind of like the Bodhisattva's handbook. In a similar way, you can call this text as Thupten Jinpa has chosen to translate it, entering into the middle way. Jeffrey Hopkins translated this text, the Madhyamaka, as supplement to the middle way. So entering in the sense of supplementing the material from fundamental wisdom. When it's talking about the middle way, as we will see as we progress along here, middle way refers particularly to the text by Nagarjuna called Fundamental Wisdom, Mula Prajna. Mula means fundamental or root. Prajna means wisdom. So it's a supplement to that because it supplements several things that are not explained explicitly in fundamental wisdom. And he supplements it with quotations from some of Nagarjuna's other works, like the Precious Garland of Advice, and from other sutras and so forth. How are we doing? You okay? Anyone have a question?
Venerable?
Yes.
Rachel had a question, but she's having trouble with her camera and hearing, so I'm asking it for her.
Okay, that's excellent.
So where it talks about stainless wisdom, Lama Tsongkhapa says, you know where it is. I can't find it now. Untainted intelligence or something like that. Yeah, having properly seen with eyes of untainted intelligence. So she asks, is it referring to the wisdom realizing emptiness, Or is Lama Tsongkhapa humbly saying that he is in that state?
He is referring to direct realization of emptiness. Usually when we talk about the highest teachings of the Buddha, there are three baskets of teachings of the Buddha, right? Three Pitaka, the Tripitaka. Have you heard that expression? In the Pali tradition, they all of the Buddhist teachings are included in the Tripitaka, the three baskets of teachings. So the Vinaya, the basket of Vinaya, or you could say Vinaya, the teachings about discipline, the Sutra Pitaka, and the Abhidharma Pitaka. So we'll talk about these three things again in the future. Usually the Vinaya Pitaka is talking about the higher training of morality. The Sutra Pitaka, although it includes many, many other things, its main subject matter is the development of the higher training of concentration. Sutra Pitaka. The Abhidharma Pitaka is talking about the higher training in wisdom. So in the famous text by Vasubandhu called the Abhidharma Kosha, he explains Abhidharma as meaning stainless wisdom, so higher dharma. So stainless wisdom means a wisdom that is untainted with the superimposition of inherent existence. It has eliminated the extremes of not negating enough or negating too much, stainless wisdom. So I think that's what's meant here. Having properly seen with the eyes of unstained intelligence. How did Jeffrey say? Stainless intelligence, all the meanings of the uncommon essentials in the texts of Nagarjuna and Arya Deva, and commentaries of the three great charioteers. So stainless or untainted intelligence here refers to that. So correct understanding of emptiness. It doesn't necessarily, he's not saying that he realized it directly, but it is untainted or unstained by the wrong understandings of them. Okay. So then Jeffrey's Captain Jimba puts a title here, preamble. It's not part of the Lama Tsongkhapa's words. Here I will explain entering the middle way. It's Madhyamaka Avatara, the great treatise that presents without error the meaning of the two aspects of the path. So what are those two aspects of the path? When we talk about aspects, it has a particular technical meaning, the profound and the vast, or you could say the profound and the extensive. In this tree of assembled gurus behind me, move it up a little bit. On one side, on Lama Tsongkhapa is facing the same way I'm facing. So to Lama Tsongkhapa's left, well, is he facing the same? Yeah, he's facing the same. So Lama Tsongkhapa's left is Manjushri, surrounded by the various individuals, lamas and deities that explained the profound aspect of the path. That means talking about the wisdom of emptiness. To Lama Tsongkhapa's right, up there in the middle, is Maitreya, who explained to a Sangha who visited him in Tushita heaven the extensive explanation of the extensive aspects of the Prajnaparamita. So when we talk about, here I will explain entering the middle way, the great treatise that presents without error the meaning of the two aspects of the path, the profound and the vast, or the profound and the extensive, in accordance with the commentary. So what he's mentioning two things here. He's going to explain the Madhyamaka Vatara root verses, which are just called Madhyamaka Vatara, as well as Chandrakirti's auto commentary, where he says, in accordance with the commentary. Jeffrey translated, here I will explain in accordance with his own commentary, that means the auto commentary, Chandrakirti's supplement to the middle way, the Madhyamaka Vatara, a great text settling without error the profound and the vast. So this has 4 parts. So now we get into outlines. Sometimes people don't like all these numbers and outlines. The meaning of the title, the translator's homage, the meaning of the treatise itself, and the concluding matter. So if you just talk about volume, almost everything in the book is in the 3rd section, the meaning of the treatise itself. So we're going to briefly talk about the meaning of the title, Madhyamaka Vatara, right? And the translator's homage, again, very, very, very short. The meaning of the treatise itself, and the concluding matter at the end of the text, almost like a dedication and pulling up various things together. So the meaning of the title. In Sanskrit, one of the 4 great languages that existed in India. Were there only 4 languages that existed in India? What do you think, Richard? You're shaking your head.
There couldn't be. It's too large a continent. There must have been hundreds of languages back then.
Right. So Jeffrey translates in Sanskrit one of the 4 language families of India. So generally, when we talk about the languages of India at the time of the Buddha and the Vedic period, there was the Sanskrit, there was later Pali, there were some other variants of these languages, like you might say dialects and so forth. So this is not talking about modern time where if you go to Kerala state or something, they speak in, what do they speak in Kerala, Shankar, do you know?
Malayalam, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that's one of the 4. It's talking about things that are derivative from Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, one of the 4 great languages that existed in India, the title of this treatise is Madhyamaka Avatara. So it's not Madhyamika Avatara. Jeffrey Hopkins pointed out in some of his works, if you use the word Madhyamika, it refers to someone who is expounding the Madhyamaka. Madhyamaka means the middle way. Madhyamika is someone who is explaining the Madhyamaka, but it could be used a little more. It could be, one doesn't have to adhere to that. When translated into Tibetan, it is rendered as Uma La Jupa. You see that in the text there, it has a capital DBU. This is showing all of the letters that are, so there's a D prefix that's not pronounced, you don't pronounce it debu, it's just pronounced U, Uma La Jupa, entering the middle way, or as Jeffrey translates it, supplement to the middle way. Namely, the treatise on the middle way. Oh, no, sorry. Here, the middle way that is being entered into or supplemented is found in the statement, to enter the middle way treatise. So where is that statement? It's in one of these. One of these verses beforehand, right? When it says, here the middle way, quote unquote, Madhyamaka, that is being entered into, is not just talking about the system of Madhyamaka, it's talking about the particular text, fundamental wisdom, because Chandrakirti refers to fundamental wisdom in some places as the middle way. Here, the middle way that is being entered into is found in the statement to enter the middle way treatise, namely the treatise on the middle way. So that's the text by Nagarjuna. So that's being taken as the kind of the root text is being talked about. And we're entering or supplementing that. It's not a general introduction to the Madhyamaka philosophy in general. For instance, when fundamental wisdom is cited in Chandrakirti's text, so when Chandrakirti is talking about fundamental wisdom, Mula Prajna, it is cited as an authority in the commentary on this text. Wait, let me try to read that more correctly. For instance, when fundamental wisdom is cited as an authority in the commentary, in the Madhyamaka on this text, Chandrakirti frequently writes in the middle way. So that means he's referring to fundamental wisdom as the Madhyamaka. Therefore, the term should not be taken to refer to some other treatise on the middle way, or the middle way philosophy in general, or some other meaning of the term middle way. A text called The Lamp on Wisdom, the Prajnapta Deepa by Bhava Viveka. Remember I mentioned Bhava Viveka, who argued with Buddhapalita, started this Svatantrika system. But he, even though his explanation of certain points of Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti refuted very vociferously, still he's considered, the text that he wrote called The Lamp of Wisdom is considered to be a great encyclopedia of Buddhism. In The Lamp of Wisdom, too, drawing on the etymology of the roots of the term middle way, it explains that both the treatise on the middle way as well as middle way philosophy can be referred to as the middle way, right? We could talk about Madhyamaka philosophy. So although the middle way appears here in the title, it must be understood as referring to the treatise on the middle way. So he's just pointing out that this is not an entering or supplement to the middle way philosophy, but it's supplementing Nagarjuna's famous text. What then is the manner in which this treatise enters or supplements the fundamental wisdom? Here some assert, and when he's saying some here, someone, some people, he's referring to the particular commentator of Chandrakirti's text called Jaya Ananda. Have you heard of Jaya Ananda? Anyone? Shake your head if you've heard of Jaya Ananda. No? Snehi, have you heard of Jaya Ananda? No. Okay. So Chandrakirti's text was, when he first wrote it, was almost unnoticed in India, even among Buddhists. That is one of the reasons that there are Indian commentaries to Madhyamaka almost don't exist. The only Indian commentary to it was written by a pundit, Indian Buddhist pundit called Jaya Ananda, who traveled to Tibet, and I think he composed the supplement. He composed his commentary to Madhyamaka when he was in Tibet. Or if he composed it in India, he helped in the translation into Tibetan when he went to Tibet. So Jayananda, or the Tibetans say Zayananda. They don't pronounce the J that we usually would recognize in Sanskrit. They say Zayananda. So he's referring here, when he's saying someone asserts that in Nagarjuna's treatise, the natures of the conventional and the ultimate truths, right? So when we talk about the two truths, we talk about ultimate truth and conventional truth. The natures of the conventional and ultimate truths have not been expounded extensively. This is what Jaya Ananda has said in his commentary. Whereas here in Chandrakirti's Madhyamaka, these have been presented extensively. So this text enters into that treatise or supplements that treatise. So the reason Lama Tsongkhapa is mentioning this is that usually when you comment on an Indian text like Fundamental Wisdom, Sanskrit text by Nagarjuna, you would depend upon the commentaries to that. So in explaining Madhyamaka, you would depend upon the Indian commentaries to that. I should have said Indian commentaries, sort of closer to the time that the text was written, closer than you yourself are, having some insight into what was meant and some oral traditions and so forth. So although Jayananda's commentary is mentioned many times in Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary, sometimes it's criticized, sometimes Lama Tsongkhapa says, oh, Jayananda had a good point. But here for the most part, he's critical of Jayananda's explanation because he doesn't, it appears to Lama Tsongkhapa that Jayananda's commentary misunderstands the actual meaning of the Prasangika. So Jayananda is saying that Nagarjuna's treatise, the Fundamental Wisdom, in that the natures of the conventional and ultimate truths have not been expounded extensively. Lama Tsongkhapa is going to, debate against that, demean that idea. Whereas here in this text, they have been presented extensively. So this text enters into that treatise. So now Lama Tsongkhapa's own point of view is, with respect to the varieties of reasoning for establishing suchness, however, fundamental wisdom is far more extensive than entering into the middle way. What does that mean? Establishing suchness means establishing the correct understanding of emptiness, right? Suchness is a synonym of emptiness. So with respect to the varieties of reasonings for establishing emptiness, with the previous course, when we talked about the practice of emptiness, we talked about various reasonings that established emptiness. That means that presented it to your mind as a real phenomena through the 4-point analysis, identifying the object of negation, establishing the ascertaining the pervasion and so forth. With respect to the varieties of reasoning for establishing emptiness or suchness, however, fundamental wisdom, mula prajna, is far more extensive than entering the middle way. So fundamental wisdom has many, many, many chapters. Each of them is devoted to exploring one topic, like the Four Noble Truths, or the Two Truths, or the 12 links of dependent origination, or coming and going, and so forth, and analyzing them each with many kinds of reasoning to establish that all phenomena, whether they be sort of concrete, like rocks and trees, or processes like coming and going and so forth, or achieving and so forth, all of them, like in the Heart Sutra says, because there is no achievement, means that even achievement is empty of inherent existence. So in the fundamental wisdom, there are many, many reasonings, much more than in the Madhyamaka. So he's criticizing Jayananda, who said that that in the Madhyamaka in this text, these have been presented extensively. So it is not the case that the profound has been presented more extensively than in fundamental wisdom. As for our own position, Lama Tsongkhapa's own position, this work enters the fundamental wisdom in two ways, or it supplements the fundamental wisdom in two ways. It enters or supplements from the perspective of the profound aspect of the path and from the perspective of the vast aspect. So maybe I will stop right there for today. So what I'm going to do is hopefully go for about an hour and 45 minutes. That's about now, right? Almost now. And then we'll do some prayers and dedications, long life prayers and so forth. And then I will remain, we'll take like a 1-minute break. And then I will remain for another 15 minutes at least to answer any questions or doubts that you have. Go up to maybe 3 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Doris and Doris is done. I don't know where it will be in other places. West Coast a bit earlier. So if you don't want to wait for the discussion group, for the question and answer after the dedications, if you have a quick one that you don't plan on staying, you can ask right now before we do the dedication prayers. Anyone have something that they want to ask? Okay, no one? Or did someone put up their hand? No, okay. So Shanka, would you like to put up the final prayers?
Hang on. Somehow I lost it. Okay, let's go back here.
Okay. Prayers for Venerable Churinoff. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Would you like to lead them, Venerable?
Let me read, yeah. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all, again, it should be migrators, living beings, without exception, into that enlightened state. So dedication is a particular mental activity where you first take cognizance of the virtues that you created during this time with some good motivation. We entered into listening to the teachings, which itself is a virtuous action, even if we didn't have a virtuous activity, because it's the correct view of emptiness, like being in the presence of a statue, one creates virtue. And a statue of the Buddha, one creates virtue merely from the side of the object, but also because of our motivation, we've created virtuous karma. Due to the merits of these virtuous activities, actually, it doesn't even say merits. It says due to the virtues, due to these virtues, because these are not only merits that we've created two collections, a collection of merit and a collection of wisdom. With these virtues, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha. May I become an omniscient being that is then able to lead others, like the proverbial Guru, and lead all migrators without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen at this point arise and grow, and may that which has already arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Those are the two dedications. And then long life prayer, particularly for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who it has been advised is experiencing some obstacles. There are some obstacles to Rinpoche's life in these times. You who uphold the Muni's moral code, serving as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine. Manjunath is another name for Manjushri. Masterfully accomplishing magnificent prayers, honoring the three jewels. Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. And then a general prayer for the spiritual guides. Eyes viewing all the infinite scriptures, supreme gateway for the fortunate traveling to liberation, engaging with skillful means, moved by love, illuminating spiritual friends, please live a long and stable life. Okay. So I will just myself take again a 1 minute or 2 minute break, and I'll be right back to answer your questions. Okay, here we go. So Mary Kata has her hand up. You can find that little icon there if you want to ask a question, or you could just shake your head in front of the screen, but Mary got her hand up there. Mary, what's your question or comment?
So I understand that the profound refers to the teachings on emptiness by Manjushri, but what does the vast refer to?
So the Bodhisattva's activities, we talk about the 6 perfections, right? The first 5 perfections are all in the category of the extensive Bodhisattva deeds. When it says extensive, or what's another way that's translated here, all-encompassing or something like that, it's referring to the Bodhisattva's deeds. So that's dealing with conventional reality. The profound is the 6th perfection, and by extension, the last 4 perfections that deal with emptiness, the ultimate nature of reality. So the vast is talking about the extensive or vast deeds of the Bodhisattvas, giving charity, making offerings, practicing morality, being very assiduous about that, being patient and so forth. And the profound is talking about the practice of the Bodhisattvas dealing with ultimate truth. So the profound lineage comes, of course, from Buddha Shakyamuni, in a sense through Manjushri, who then inspired Nagarjuna and others to explain emptiness correctly. The extensive lineage, or the vast lineage, was based on Maitreya, the future Buddha, who's now presiding in Tushita heaven, just as Shakyamuni Buddha presided in Tushita heaven as the regent before he came to earth. A great story of the great text, the Lalita Vistara, that the story of the play of the Buddha, meaning, you know, through the omniscient mind that is single-pointedly concentrating on emptiness, still emanating in the world, sort of playing in the world. In that, it explains how Shakyamuni, well, it wasn't called Shakyamuni at that time yet, because he got that name when he was born in the Shakya clan. He surveyed the earth and took the aspect of deciding where to take rebirth. Actually, he knew already being Buddha. So in the same way, once he came to earth, the next regent was installed, called Maitreya. And Maitreya is the regent there now. And it's through Maitreya that the explanation of the extensive deeds, or the vast deeds, were elucidated on when Maitreya appeared in the world to a Sangha. Maybe you know the story. Brought a Sangha up to Tushita heaven for a couple of day discourse, which was equivalent to like 50 years on earth, and taught him the 5 texts of Maitreya that explain in detail, mainly through the Chittamatra system, although it's said that a Sangha was ultimately a Prasangika. It mainly explained the Chittamatra system and the Svatantrika system of the extensive deeds dealing with ordinary conventional truth. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So, Richard, you look like you might have a question there. Got your hand? No?
No, just typing away.
Oh, okay. So, Diana, do you have any question? Two old students in the same era with Shanka and Don Isaacson. Is Don still here? Is he? Did he have to leave? Maybe Don's not here. Oh no, there he is. Yeah.
I'm here, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any question, Don?
No, in fact, the last question answered the question I had.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for that.
Thanks to Mary. Nadine, any question?
I have no question. Thank you.
Okay. Mikhail Jumpia?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering about the what Tsongkhapa means by great charioteers, because usually it's qualifying someone who has started a new system. Am I right?
So it's actually those who are have re-expressed that which the Buddha expressed. When we're talking about great charioteers in Buddhism, so it can be phrased in various ways. Generally, when we talk about the charioteers, they have like the example I gave of Roman roads. You know, that if you go in Rome, maybe even the viaducts and so forth, you know, they were kind of covered by things, or Borobudur in Java and so forth, completely encrusted by plants, and someone cleaned those things away and made it more clear again. So that's the sense of charioteers here. I think what did I read one note about that, right?
Yeah, there is one note, yeah.
49. This is in reference to Buddhapalita, Shantideva, Buddhapalita, Chandrakirti, and Shantideva. The expression great charioteer, Shingda Chempo, the great wooden horse, is an abbreviation of the full expression, great chariot way maker. So charioteer doesn't mean someone who's just riding the chariot, but it's an abbreviation of someone who's cleared the way for the chariots. That is, there was a track that the Buddha laid down, and later it was, overgrown. The Prasangika, the Madhyamaka, the teachings about the Bodhisattva's extensive deeds became not so well known in the world, and then the great charioteers or the great chariot way makers came, great trailblazers, invoking the idea of someone who opens a roadway for chariots to pass where before there was either no path, so they can infer, as you were implying, someone who creates a new explanation, or where there was no path or only a small trail. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you. So according to Tsong Khapa, there are 5.
Well,
Charities,
yeah. So here he's talking about 3 in particular, right? But you're right, Nagarjuna and a Sangha. So when we talk about these, on Lama Tsong Khapa's left, the wisdom lineage up in the top. Let me put up, way up at the top, you can't see so much. Manjushri surrounded by the profound lineage, Maitreya surrounded by the extensive deeds lineage. So amongst their disciples, after Manjushri and Maitreya, the next Lama after Manjushri is Nagarjuna. So he's kind of, as you say, he's called a how did we translate it here? So revealer of the chariot path that the Buddha had laid down, opened up the path. Trailblazer sounds like someone making a new path. None of these lamas, none of these great beings, Buddhist saints, would be called trailblazers in the sense of creating a new path. Because there was nothing that the Buddha didn't explicitly or implicitly teach. So they're mainly opening up the path that the Buddha had taught and that had fallen into disuse.
Great.
So you're right. So you could say 5. You could say in that sense there are 5 trailblazers, usually, or 5 openers of the chariot way. Generally, we talk about Nagarjuna and the Sangha being the 2 trailblazers because they opened up the Madhyamaka way and the Chittamatra understanding. And then amongst the in that verse that was mentioning charioteers, it talked about Buddhapalita, Chandrakirti, and Shantideva. So they more extensively clarified the Prasangika path. So they're charioteers clearing the way of the chariot of the Prasangika. So Francesca, you have a question?
Yes, Venerable. First of all, thank you for giving this wonderful teaching. So it's my first teaching that I received from you, and I would like to thank you.
Thank you.
But my question is also if Nagarjuna in his fundamental wisdom explains more reasonings on emptiness than Chandrakirti, what is the reason why fundamental wisdom is normally not included in the traditional curriculum? I'm referring either to master program curriculum. So why not study fundamental wisdom first and then move on to Chandrakirti?
Good question. So fundamental wisdom, Mula Prajna, there are other names that it goes by also, right? it is a text that is which are verses, and Nagarjuna did not write an auto commentary to those verses. So for that reason, some people read the verse and they'll say, oh, that's Chittamatra. He's talking about Chittamatra. Someone say, oh, no, it's talking about Svatantrika. Someone else would say it's talking about Prasangika. So there was no auto commentary to that fundamental wisdom by Nagarjuna himself. There's some texts in the Chinese canon that are attributed, commentary to the fundamental wisdom, attributed to Nagarjuna, but generally in the Tibetan tradition, they are said not to be written by Nagarjuna because, among other things, there are some mistaken understandings in those treatises. So there were some people who either they themselves were called Nagarjuna, the equivalent in Chinese, and they comprised the text, or there was someone who was trying to write a text and take the name of the great Nagarjuna as the author. So fundamental wisdom is hard to understand. So generally, in order to enter into that text in the Madhyamaka philosophy, Prasangika philosophy, we depend upon Chandrakirti's text. Because it's specific, there are two texts by Chandrakirti on explaining commentaries to fundamental wisdom. One is the text that we're studying here, the Madhyamaka Vatara and its commentary. That's essentially one text. And the other is the text Ocean of Reasoning that I mentioned before. Ocean of Reasoning is a word commentary to fundamental wisdom. So it goes, every verse of fundamental wisdom is there in order, and after each verse, Lama Tsongkhapa wrote commentary. It's actually based on another commentary of Chandrakirti to fundamental wisdom. So maybe get a little confusing. So fundamental wisdom, there were two commentaries to that by Chandrakirti. One is called the Madhyamaka Vatara, which is called a meaning commentary. So it doesn't quote every verse of fundamental wisdom. The other text by Chandrakirti is called the clearly worded or clear words, Prasana Pada. And in that text, Chandrakirti wrote, explained every verse of fundamental wisdom. So it's called a word commentary. So you have a meaning commentary and a word commentary. Then Lama Tsongkhapa wrote commentaries to both of them. He wrote a commentary to Madhyamaka Vatara, which is the meaning commentary, which is what we're studying, Goparapsa, Illuminating Intention. And he wrote a commentary to Prasana Pada, the word commentary by Chandrakirti, called Ocean of Reasoning. Okay, so they are the way that we can understand what Nagarjuna was talking about. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has said that in Tibet, there was a tradition of writing commentaries about commentaries about commentaries. And in the end, some of the students never read the text that they were commenting on. So His Holiness jokes, he says, in the monasteries, they should deal more than, well, let's say at Serajay, they have their own commentary to Lama Tsongkhapa's Gompa Rapsa. So he said, rather than that, read Lama Tsongkhapa. Even better, read Chandrakirti's Prasana Pada, or read Fundamental Wisdom. So it's just a matter matter due to the fact that these texts become more and more obscure over time. We're not close to the time that Nagarjuna wrote the text. We weren't amongst his disciples. Oh, maybe some of you were, I don't know. so we didn't hear those teachings. We didn't have the lineage so close from the Buddha that still existed. So the text seems cryptic at times. So it needed some commentary to that. Does that make sense? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, anyone else? Doing pretty good. Venerable, do you have a question up there? Hendren? No? Yeah. There was another ordained, oh, Tenzin Somo. Venerable, are you there? Who is Tenzin Somo? Oh, this is not the Tenzin. I was thinking that was Somo at Atlanta Medicine Buddha. Where are you, Tenzin Somo, Venerable?
I'm actually in Spain at the moment.
Ah, excellent. Okay. Do you have any question?
No, thank you. No.
Okay. Thank you. Rachel, you just popped in. Do you have a question? You have your mask on. Don't worry. Do you have any question? No? Okay.
I'm in a noisy place. So
Oh, okay. Got it. So I will, we're just after 3 o'clock Eastern time. I will leave you now. And I believe is Shanka still here?
Of course.
Yeah, there he is. And so many people on the screen. Shanka will give you some explanation if you'd like to stay on to have some discussion after this. So thank you very much for your participation. Hope to see you again next week. And if you have any burning questions during the week, you could send them to Shanka. If you happen to have my email address, you could send them to me, but I'm not going to publicize my email address because if this goes up on YouTube, who knows, I'll be getting all sorts of spam or something. And I'll try to answer them before next time. So hope to see you again next week. Thanks so much for attending.